Hi, and welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, and on today's episode we are joined by Trip Galey to discuss A Market of Dreams and Destiny. So what can you tell us about your book without too many spoilers?
Alright, so shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Complicated magical deals.
Mm-hmm.
Male love subplot.
Mm-hmm.
Magical goblin market beneath alternate history Victorian London. Sentient bells. And a talking cat. Because the talking cat is literally everyone's favorite part.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, the talking cat. And the sentient bells. Like, it was kind of early on giving me some kind of Sabriel vibes in a way. I was just like, there's bells, there's like talking bells. So good. It's such a kind of wonderful idea of having kind of the goblin market and the kind of alternate Victorian London. So where did that kind of idea come from?
So I did a doctoral degree, and my specific, very niche field of study was the goblin market trope in fantasy literature. So I have an entire section of my PhD on liminality and liminal spaces, and how that applies to fairies in general as liminal beings, and then obviously the goblin market. And so if we are engaging with, that concept of fairy and the idea of liminality, it has to exist below London and not London at the same time. There has to be a way to access it, and that needs to have the right sort of thematic resonance. So you find those points of overlap where the two worlds Venn diagram themselves, and those are your entry points.
Because the alternate London thing we obviously mentioned before off camera about Tori Bovalino's kind of most recent book, which is also incredible, and even things like obviously V. Schwab and having like the kind of different Londons coexisting. So how did you kind of keep them separate, kind of what's going on in the different parts of the world?
Through sheer luck. So the thing with this book is, because I was writing it in conjunction with my PhD studies, I had to hand in things at a very strict deadline, and my solution for this was, I'm stuck, I don't know what happens next here. Why don't I just jump to another part of the book and just write that bit, because I know what will happen there. Which worked fantastically for deadlines,
right?
But for making things make sense and for the whole editorial process at the end, did not work so well. So it was, how I kept it apart was basically, I got one of those big rolls of white butcher paper, and I rolled it out, and I took colored markers, and I just started writing down which scenes I had, what was happening. Okay, was this scene featuring Deri? Was this scene featuring Morlock? Was this scene featuring Aurelia? And then color coding things, and then being like, oh, that doesn't work there. Can I move it here? Crossing out and rewriting. And then discovering partway through that I'd lost chapters.
Oh god.
The only reason, the way my mind works, it's all up in here, so I can't see that it's not all in there. Right. Because my brain's like, oh no, it's there. Because obviously it is. So if my partner hadn't gone, you had two really good scenes with Deri and Owen, and they're not there. And I'm like, what do you mean they're not there? Of course they're there. And then I go and I look, and they're not there.
Oh god.
And then they were not in my Word document. They were not on Scrivener. They were not in Google Docs. The only place I managed to find them was a PDF of the first 75% of the first draft that I had emailed to my partner as okay, you need to go through this and get rid of all these typos, because I'm terrible at typos. And it was still there, and then I had to retype them up from the PDF. and reintegrate them. And obviously at that point they were from like pre-first draft status. It had been like 2.5 years with a pandemic. And I'm like, oh, these don't fit in the chronology anymore, so now I have to rewrite them, and then I have to like yank things apart and then like move things over and put those in and then like smooth it all over. Because it's a terrible way to write a book. I do not recommend it.
I was going to say, it sounds so chaotic.
It's incredibly chaotic. Yeah. So the sequel, which I am writing right now, much smoother. I'm literally going from beginning to end. I have my like key points outline. It's not like everything, but it's like, okay, generally, and I'm like, okay, I'm generally just building this in chronological order, and I'm like, oh, this is much easier.
Yeah.
Why don't more people do this?
Oh my god! Well, at least you kind of learnt from the chaos.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the first
no.
book. And it doesn't show.
Fail faster, like iterative processes.
Your book has such kind of gorgeous prose as well. So, was this your kind of first experience writing fiction? Because I know obviously you said about kind of a history in academia.
So no, as an undergrad, ages ago, I studied fiction writing with John Crowley. And I wrote off and on, just sort of like at that age, and then, you know, reality hits you and you're like, oh, I actually need to make money. So I started doing copywriting and marketing. And I was doing a bit of writing in the background, but not really. And then 5-6 years ago, I was like, no, let's do the fiction thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's not my first experience with writing fiction. It's my first experience like pulling everything together. Like, of course I had, you know, the terrible novel that no one's going to see because it's the first time you ever wrote a novel, and it's just...
Everyone has one.
Yeah. It is locked away, deeply hidden, exactly where it needs to be. But yeah, so I have had experience writing fiction before. There is do you know the Choose Your Own Adventure novels, or
yes.
What do they call them over here? Fighting Fantasy?
Yeah, Fighting Fantasy. Yeah.
So there's a company in the States called Choice of Games.
Okay.
And they asked me to pitch concepts to them.
Ah.
And I was like, oh, I'm about to start my PhD. Oh, I'll pitch a concept that's in the same universe as the universe I'm planning on using for my practice-based research. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. I was like, okay, cool. I only have to do one set of world building, but still a lot of words. So there's actually essentially a Choose Your Own Adventure game/novel thing set in the same world with a couple of characters that will be familiar from people who have read this book.
Okay.
Morlock shows up.
Okay.
And may or may not be incredibly inconvenient in his appearance. But yeah, so I did a lot of fiction for that. I think it was 300,000 words of fiction.
Wow.
Well, because you know, you've got the branching thing and all the different options. So I was doing that pretty much at the same time as that. So it was really like it was a writing intensive. It's like a lot of words, a lot of fiction, just a constant outpouring for about 4 years.
Wow.
Just very intense. Lots of words. Too much. My to-do list was too big.
You trim that back a bit now.
A little
bit.
There's all this like author promotion stuff seems to be growing to consume an increasing amount of my to-do list. But yeah. I am trying to be more moderate in my ambitions.
Okay. So in a market of Dreams and Destiny, everything has a price at the market. So if you had to sell one thing at the market, what would you sell?
So are we asking as me, the human, going to the market and selling something to make a purchase?
Yes.
Okay, because I've also had this question where it's like, what if I were a merchant at the market?
Oh,
what would I sell as a merchant?
Okay.
But if what would I sell? What would people want? Like, I mean, I've got a boatload of childhood trauma. I could do a really good deal on that. I really like the idea of selling my shadow for some reason. Like, I don't know if it's watching too much Peter Pan as a child, or just like the idea of how weird that would be, because it's subtly weird, you know? It's the sort of weird that you only notice out of the corner of your eye.
Yes.
I kind of like the idea of selling my shadow, but I'm sure like I could come up with a huge list if you like, give me some time. I'm like, I'm actually gonna think about this, but yeah.
God, I'm trying to think. Is there a horror film or horror book where someone doesn't know? I'm sure there's. I'm just trying to think of. Maybe it's like Eric Rock, or there's something without like a shadow that it's like on the edge.
In David Eddings, one of the books, someone has their shadow destroyed, and then they just don't have a shadow from that point on.
Okay.
And I think they're really annoyed because like it means animals are always really freaked out around them, so they can't ride a horse.
Okay.
Because the horse is always like, you don't have a shadow, and like freaks out, and like, so they can't ride a horse anymore, so they have to like.
See, you may sell your shadow and then a couple of years later regret your decision.
No, if you sell something at the Goblin Market, it is guaranteed to bite you in the arse at some point.
Yes,
like,
very much.
that is how it works.
Yes.
Like, if you make a deal with the devil, you're going to regret it.
Yes.
Maybe you'll be able to loophole yourself out of it or into some sort of advantage. But yeah, no, there is a downside, and it is coming for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, with our main characters in the book, so we have, well, interestingly enough, obviously we have a really kind of gorgeous romance between, now, is it Owen or Owain?
So, I'm American on top of being an English speaker.
Yes.
So even though Owain's name should properly be the Welsh pronunciation, I'm constantly afraid of not getting it quite perfect. So in my head, it's pronounced Owain, like as it would be in the Welsh. And I'm sorry to any Welsh viewers if I did not do that entirely correctly. But yeah, so Owen also works.
Yes.
Just for ease of not murdering someone else's language, because it's the Welsh for Owen. So.
Yes, and I think so like a very geeky admission. I only knew the kind of Irish pronunciation because I was playing a Fire Emblem a few years ago, and one of the characters is so I was just like, I know that. I know that sounded that name. So we have just a gorgeous relationship between Owen, and Deri. So kind of where did those characters come? Did they come in kind of fully formed and they were like kicking down the door, or did you have to kind of
so this was not the novel that I set out to write at the beginning of everything. I had a completely different concept, and then I realized I wasn't investing enough time at the Goblin Market.
Okay.
So I was like, no. What I need is my main character to be a human who has a reason to exist within the Goblin Market. So I have that insider-outsider perspective and just be really immersed in this trope and this sort of world. So Deri grew out of that need. I was like, that's the sort of character I need. And then it was like, we're dealing with a market, we're dealing with London. What sort of wheeler dealer fast talking characters do you get? And you start getting like the idea of like costermongers and like Cockney merchants and all of these things, and it just sort of like accreted around him until boom, there he was. And he's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like I would love to be that cocky in real life. I would love to have that level of confidence, because I do not. But he's just, so much unearned confidence. Although maybe he earns it by the end, but yeah. So Deri grew out of the need to explore the Goblin Market from within.
Okay.
And then because Deri had grown up within the system of the Goblin Market, he didn't have a strong connection with London above.
Yes.
Or the Uber side. So he needed that grounding, and I'm like, well, we're gonna make it a queer love story because obviously. And then Owain came out of that. Mike was like, okay, so we need the romantic counterpoint.
Yes.
And I was like, well, here's Deri charging around. Owain needs to be a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more level-headed, at least at the beginning. And then obviously it's Victorian London. You cannot have a workhouse. So I'm like, well, here's one character in Durance Vile. Let's have another character in a very similar Durance Vile, and they mirror themselves and go from there.
Oh, and they're just such, like, they are a gorgeous couple together. Like, you can just kind of see them. You can see, obviously, each character's kind of plus points, and then they obviously kind of are enough to support each other. Like, it's very beautifully written. So I have to say, it's a wonderful romance. We need more male romance, I think, because there's not a huge amount, or not as much, maybe kind of getting it traditionally published at least.
No. And there's certainly not as much in those bits of the science fiction fantasy ecosystem that aren't also overlapping with paranormal romance.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
So yeah. We're getting some really good lesbians though.
Oh yeah. I mean,
like some really good lesbians.
Up there, like we often talk about Gideon.
I was literally just thinking lesbian necromancers in space. Like that is like literally the first place my brain goes.
Oh my god, it's so good. And even now you get, so you'll be at MCM at the end of the month, but you get Gideon cosplayers now, which it just always like warms my heart when because I'm just like, you never get book cosplayers, and suddenly now
that's amazing.
Everywhere.
I got my first piece of fan art a few weeks ago.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my god, I can't.
This
like,
is it.
This is the author has arrived moment. But yeah, it's Deri and Owain meeting Deri's family.
Oh.
I won't go beyond that because of spoilers. But
Yeah. That's very pleasing. Yeah. No. So talk about male romance. So obviously there are books like A Marvellous Light, which is obviously another recent kind of publication. Is there any others that you'd like to kind of draw focus on that people should be picking up and reading, or?
I've got a huge list. Okay, I can't not recommend the White Trash Warlock trilogy by David Slayton.
Wow. Okay.
Urban fantasy, set in the Midwest, so not in one of the big cities, like urban fantasy almost always is. David's from the area. The main character is from a disadvantaged working class background, as is David. Like, David and I both grew up in trailers, so we bonded over that. But like, and David's main character, Adam, grew up in a trailer. He's a working class magic protagonist in urban fantasy, and he has a male romance. That's great. I cannot wait to read Teach the Torches to Burn by Caleb Rorik.
Which we will have more copies coming in.
My partner has read it. Everything of Caleb's that I have read, I have loved. The Fell of Dark.
Yes, which I now need to read.
Also by Caleb Rorik. There are so many. But, yeah. White Trash Warlock, Teach the Torches to Burn, Fell of Dark. I've literally got a stack of these books.
I love the title White Trash Warlock though. That's too good.
Yeah.
That's too good. It's just great to see that there's sci-fi and fantasy kind of for everyone, for whatever anyone's looking for. I love the kind of cozier vibes and stuff that are happening of late as well, which is just great to see. So,
sorry, you just said cozy vibes. This is completely random and tangential. I understand if you need to check this out. So I've got the cozy fantasy panel coming up.
Yes.
7th? Or is that the one? I'm on a lot of panels and I'm losing track. One of them is about cozy fantasy. And so I was talking about cozy fantasy and like the ideas of it and which elements of my book would count as cozy fantasy, because there are some things in there that are not cozy at all.
Oh, yeah.
Very not cozy. But yeah, so thinking about the aspects of it that are, and like, I'm like, okay, I know. So I'm working on a short story right now in my copious amounts of free time. It is called The Kitten and the Kit, and it is Deri and Owain on a date, but they're babysitting a talking kitten in exchange for Bess getting them the time to go on the date. And then obviously shenanigans ensue.
That's too good.
I've been having so much fun being like, okay, I've got a talking kitten getting into mischief, running around magical London with two hapless gay boys being like, where'd the cat go? What's happening? Oh no, have we lost the kitten? So I'm excited to finish that, and I'm going to put that up on my Patreon.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah. Because Bess, obviously, one of the best characters.
Everyone loves a talking cat. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
And I'm very, very gratified because, yeah. So I came up with the idea for the world that this book is set in back in 2010. So I have a long list of characters and book ideas and things that just I haven't been able to use for various things yet. Jack Trades predates this book.
Okay.
Bess also predates this book.
Oh.
Bess is actually one of the first characters I came up with for this world. Jack Trades, Bess, and there are 4 others from the very first, like, okay, this is the first story I came up with in this world, and Bess and Jack Trades are 2 of those characters.
Oh.
So yeah.
Yeah. Gotta get some more Bess action.
Yep. I'm trying. I'm okay. Bess. I need Bess in book 2 as well, and just figuring out where everything fits in.
So the secondary characters, so you touched upon how some of them may be appearing in your second book. Do you think you would ever kind of revisit any of these characters in, you mentioned as well, the short story, kind of any, almost like origin stories for some of the side characters? Would you ever kind of revisit?
So Morlock just keeps showing up in everything.
He's such a good villain.
Just
yes.
I have some. Yes. I've got a huge file on Jack Trades. I have a huge file on Bess. Sylvestra is another. She was one of the original 6 characters that I came up with. Aurelia was invented for this book, and I was like, oh, well, now we've got like this sister dynamic that we can play with. So I'm like, okay, we'll do that. So I've got a lot of back stuff for Sylvester. Sylvester will appear in book 2, as will Jack Trades. The book 2 is more from Jack Trades' perspective.
Okay.
It's sort of bringing him more to the fore. Gosh, who else is in this? Multiple people have asked for more stories with Vimukti.
Okay.
And I'm not opposed to that, but I think I would want like a co-writer or someone who has more of that lived experience, being a person of color. But Blatterbosh appears in some things. He's just so much fun. I don't have a concept for him, but I love writing novellas and like shorter pieces of things.
Yes.
So, yeah, I could definitely see some of those characters coming in and doing smaller things.
And with the as well, because we didn't obviously touch upon the kind of magic system in a way, obviously more kind of the bartering system, I suppose. But with Deri, the fact that he can do some magic due to the goblin midwife, so there is like a slight kind of magic.
So his main magical ability is being able to speak with the bells.
Yes.
And they are willing to give him little snippets of like this is how the market works, even though he shouldn't technically know how it works.
Yeah.
So he could, like, his thing is he can make fairy deals. He can't do it quite as well or as efficiently as someone who is, you know, a full merchant of the Intermarkt yet.
Yeah.
But like that is pretty much the extent of his magical ability. It's a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
It's not like full vast, you know, power sorts of things. And I don't go into a lot in this book. But yeah, there is very much like a more human form of magic.
Yeah.
The druids do get a mention, so there's a bit more of another sort of supernatural force or effect that can be had there. Sorry, what was the original question? Like, I'm not going to tangent and a tangent.
No, just saying about the kind of the magic system. I suppose more kind of the kind of barter system that's there. But the fact that obviously Deri is able to do a smidge of magic.
Yeah.
Just a yeah.
It's a sort of thing where, yeah, Morlock or Jack Trades could just seal a deal with the words that they speak.
Yes.
Deri needs ink of night. He has to write it down and someone has to sign.
Yeah.
So he can do it. He knows generally how that sort of thing works, but he needs materials to make it work.
There's almost a level of bureaucracy to it. I just need you to countersign this contract.
Yeah.
So coming to the end of our interview today, so I always like to find out, obviously you mentioned a bit about what you're working on next, but also what are you currently reading, watching, and if you game, what are you playing?
Okay. Reading, I am currently rereading V.E. Schwab's London books.
Yes.
Just started the second one last night. Sorry. Water break.
Schwab has that effect on me.
Yeah. So I just started reading the second one last night. My other big things on my TBR. Oh my God, there's so many. It's so big. It's so
towering.
It's just towering. I can't think that far ahead. Murderbot. I'm gonna be rereading Murderbot. I reread Murderbot like every year, like all of it, and I know there's a new one either just out or coming out. So yeah, no, I'm going to be rereading all of Murderbot and then the new Murderbot because I am obsessed. It's so good. So yeah, currently reading V.E. Schwab. We'll soon be reading Martha Wells. Our flat, because I live in a flat with other guys and everyone's some kind of writer, so we call it the writer flat. We actually we started a queer small press that specialized in science fiction and fantasy, like literally just 3 months ago, something like that. We were just sitting around and we're like, someone made a joke in the group chat. I don't know if you know the meme, I want that twink obliterated. Someone made a joke, and then my husband was like, that'd be a really good title for an anthology. We all laugh and go back to work. And then flatmate Chris comes in. I'm sitting at the kitchen table typing, and he's like, but it would be a good anthology. And we could do that anthology. Are we doing that anthology? Yeah, it's like, yeah, we are doing this anthology. And actually, right now, we are currently kickstarting I Want That Twink Obliterated. We funded in our first 32 hours, which is fab. So we are currently working on a stretch goal, which if we hit it, we'll be doing an audiobook as well. Yeah, we've got Caleb. Caleb Rohr is one of our authors.
Yes.
Adam Sass, Christopher Barzak. Anthony Oliveira, who put I Want That Twink Obliterated into Marvel.
Yes.
It's gonna be really exciting. We have already opened to submissions, so we're bringing in new queer voices as well. We've got some awesome add-on merch. If you would like, a T-shirt, we've got a T-shirt. We have a jock strap that says "Obliterate Me" on the back of it. It's a really, really fun campaign, and honestly, the art. This is Steven Andrade. I'm sorry if I got that name pronunciation wrong. I've only ever seen it written down. It's so good. It is stunningly pulp and amazingly beautifully queer, and so that's another thing I'm working on is we are creating this anthology, and hopefully, if it goes well, producing some queer novellas and stuff, and maybe an annual anthology. We don't know. We'll have to see how this one goes, but it's definitely happening. We have funded, so it's very exciting. Reading. Okay, I talked about what I was reading. This is one of the things I'm working on. Watching is this is why I brought this up, because we have Writer Flat. But so Robert and I absolutely love The Magicians.
Yes.
But Chris had never seen The Magicians, which was a travesty. So we have literally just finished rewatching Magicians.
Okay.
And Chris, who adores Doctor Who, has been going through and collecting original Doctor Who stuff and being like, okay, we have to watch this. We have to watch this. And making sort of a very efficient, smooth, best of classic Who, so that we can be educated in one of the core texts of our new adopted homeland. And so that will be happening. We love the new Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, I need to catch up because it's coming to the BBC now as well.
I let Robert manage all of the media that we're
really
watching.
Weird platforms for things like The Magicians originally was really difficult to actually watch.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why is this so difficult?
Well, because when it started coming out, we were still living in the States, and it was easy. And then we moved over here, and then we the last 3 series we just didn't watch forever because it was so hard to find. Yeah. And then it finally did, and we caught up, and we were like, life in a day. So good. Okay, reading, watching, things we're doing. What was the other one?
Do you guys game?
Chris is very into Baldur's Gate 3 right now.
Yes. I've lost my other half to the same disease.
I have not been doing any gaming right now because stuff. When I can, I'm a Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a World of Darkness. I need my magical math rocks in front of me, and I need my peeps around me in physical proximity if possible. I have done some Zoom tabletop gaming.
Yes. Yeah.
Legacy of the Pandemic, but that is my sort of gaming, is the very immersive tabletop-y stuff. Although I always end up being the game master, and I almost never get to play. Forever DM. That's my curse. But yeah. The last thing, video game wise, Robert and I were like, okay, let's just finally do a complete playthrough of Kingdom Hearts. And we got started, and then life happened, and it's just been sort of paused for an indeterminate amount of time.
I have a weird thing with Kingdom Hearts, and I adore JRPGs. I grew up playing Final Fantasy and Secret of Mana and stuff. But I could never get my head around having Disney in my JRPG, so it's one of the only series I've never played.
See, that's Robert's entry point, because Robert isn't a huge video game person, but he is a Disney gay.
Right.
Big Disney gay. So that was a great entry point. And Maleficent is when you talk about amazing villains.
Yeah.
Sold. Actually, so the BFI did a Disney series very recently.
Oh, okay.
And they brought out the full Sleeping Beauty, because it's actually wider than widescreen in its original aspect ratio. And seeing that on the big screen with the full level of detail that you get with a proper like projector bulb and everything. Stunning levels of detail. Just like how I understand why it nearly bankrupted the studio. Like every single cell looks like it's taken from a French tapestry, and when you see it that big, like the little details that are happening in the background, and like it's stunning.
Yeah, I always feel like I miss out on too much stuff. I don't work too much. I need to work less.
No, capitalism just needs to like take a chill pill and
take
like
a day off.
like give us a living wage, give us like a 4-day work week. Like, you want us to consume? You don't give us time to consume. Give us more money and more time, and we will consume better.
It's like, oh wait. Yeah, it's too good.
Like, there's like the tiny amount of time that I have to read right now. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, no, I want to be reading so much more.
Oh yeah. But you always kind of get the guilt reaction when you do have some downtime. You feel guilty about reading or playing a game or whatever. It's just like, oh, I should really be being
There's
productive.
this huge list of things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And even when like reading is part of my job technically. Like when I buy books, that's a tax deductible thing.
Yes.
Which,
this is what my boyfriend does. He's just like, I'm just buying books, and then we'll just sort that out at the end of the tax year.
And it's like it's literally part of my job, and still I'm like, no, I need to be like boosting engagement on social media, and I need to be like drafting like another manuscript, and
it's too much. I mean, we thank you for the amazing words. But yeah, take some time off after.
I had recently had 6 days in beautiful, idyllic, very rural, no mobile signal Wales.
Oh, okay. Did it rain?
For a writers' conference. It
rain?
Rained about 50% of the time, and I loved it. Part of the reason I moved to this country was for the rain. Like, I love misty, moderate weather. Like
that we can do.
sold.
Moderate. We're good at that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us today and
thank you for having me.
about A Mark of Dreams and Destiny. We have signed copies going to all of our stores, actually. Trip very kindly signed in London, but all 9 of our stores will have signed stock, and we will even have some more after MCM at the end of the month. But yeah, hopefully see you guys soon for the next FP TV. Bye!
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.